No two people live their lives the same way. But what makes people so different? How is it that somebody that just lives a street away from somebody else can act completely opposite of that person? Everyone in this room right now acts differently and goes about a situation differently because of things that have happened in their lives or because of people that have affected their lives. Sometimes these events are huge events that impact somebody automatically and change their lives forever. But sometimes these events are just little instances in time that stay in the back of somebody's mind and make them act a little bit different or go about something differently than they normally would have if it hadn't happened. For me, the two people that have really affected my life is my dad and my grandma. When I was little, all I wanted to do was be like my dad. I wanted to grow up and be exactly like him. And since he played a lot of sports, I wanted to play a lot of sports. He played football, he played rugby, he wrestled, and he boxed. So naturally, when my middle school football team had tryouts, I was all for it. I wanted to go out and I wanted to do as good as possible. But when I went out, I was a little bit more overweight than I should have been, and I wasn't in shape at all. So I went out and I couldn't keep up with anybody, and I couldn't play like I wanted to, like I expected I was going to. So I went home that night, and I was so disappointed. I told my dad I didn't think I was going to play anymore. I didn't think I was going to go back to even the second practice. But he sat me down, and I still remember to this day, he told me that if I didn't go out and play as hard as I could, and if I gave up on the first problem that I was confronted with that I really had to work for, that I would never try for anything else ever again, and I would never do what I really wanted to. So I went out the next day, and I went out the next week, and kept going, and after about a month of practice, we had our first game. And that game, I got sat on the bench, and I didn't play at all, and I was really disappointed, but my dad told me to keep going and keep trying. And so about 3 weeks before our last game, it was probably I think we had 3 more games left, my coach pulled me over after practice and told me that he was going to start me. And I went out and I tried as hard as I could, and he started me every single game after that. I started 3 games, and after our last game was our district championship, and we ended up winning our district championship. But after middle school ended, so did football. So I stopped playing. I didn't play in high school. I just didn't want to compete with everybody. So about junior year, one of my buddies came up to me in the hallway and told me I had to come out and play for his lacrosse team, and he knew I'd be great. But I wasn't as good as he thought I was going to be, and I really couldn't even handle the ball or run up and down the field with the ball. But I fell in love with the sport, and so I kept going and I kept going. I really didn't get a whole lot better that season. But the next season, since I fell in love with the sport, I tried over the summer, and I went to camps, and I practiced as much as I could. And I came back the next season, and I didn't realize how much better I'd gotten. But the coach told me that I'd gotten so much better that he was going to start me every single game. And I started every single game we played, and we ended up winning the state championship. And had it not been for my dad forcing me and telling me that I needed to keep trying, I probably never would have even tried to go after the second season of lacrosse after I did so bad the first season. Now, the next person that really impacted my life is my grandma. When I was little, I can still remember my grandma taking me down in a little red wagon before I could barely even walk. She'd wheel me down to a pond, and she'd throw out bread, and we'd fish for a little bit, and I never really caught a whole lot. But it was okay because I was having fun, and I was falling in love with the outdoors, and I didn't even realize it. But we'd go back every single weekend and fish, and I got a little bit better, and I started liking it more, and I loved fishing after that. And I loved being with my grandma because it was associated with the outdoors, and it just reminded me of it. So we kept fishing, and she got a little bit older, and she couldn't come fishing with me anymore. But my love for the outdoors never faded. So I started hunting, and I started fishing, or I kept fishing, and and I always went back to her house, and she'd tell me the story every single time I went back to see her. She'd tell me the story about how she'd take me down in the little red wagon, and we'd fish and have a great time. And so I fell in love with it, and I met a ton of friends through it, and I made a million memories with it. And without my grandma, I never would have fallen in love with the outdoors. I never would have the love for the outdoors that I do. And so it's really easy to forget about everything in your life and kind of just let it pass by and not realize what you're blessed with, and not realize that those little instances in life and those people in your life impacted so greatly. Because without my dad, I wouldn't have the same work ethic. I wouldn't play as many sports. I wouldn't have won state. I wouldn't have won district championship. I wouldn't have really achieved anything without my dad telling me that I needed to keep going and keep trying. And without my grandma, I wouldn't have made as many friends, I wouldn't have made as many memories, and I wouldn't have the respect for the great outdoors and for this beautiful world that we live on.